Yeah.
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 Right. Hi.
You got it all set up.
Hot mic.
Yep. Hot mic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Came up with that message that said you must update your like fine.
Right off.
If they did, but I.
The free fall we had with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, sure.
They don't sit there.
Mark, how are you?
Happy New Year.
Oh.
For obvious reasons, she don't today. Oh, yeah. Did she?
And it's
Going hot. I
I
know it's up for us. It's not by Thursday. She got it. Okay. So he gonna be on Zoom and I would imagine, or I heard she did. I doubt that, but maybe she was at hockey with the children Saturday. She told me that it's fun, it's breach. Sorry. It's fine.
No, you're fine.
You bring for.
Which is in the new year.
But yeah,
It's fresh.
plus you got the semi sort of little.
Yeah, I got the shares.
That's true.
That's not gonna be a favorite.
Right.
4 o'clock and the first meeting of 2024, the Grand County Commission is on the order. We'll start the meeting with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Does everyone have an opportunity to read the minutes of the last meetings? Do I have a motion? So moved. Mr. Roth,
Second.
second, Mr. Rusted, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I.
Passed unanimously. Then, the order of the agenda, are there any additions? We made to the agenda. The motion for the order of the agenda. So, Mr. Rusted, second,
Second.
Mr. Peach. All in favor of the approval of the order of the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. And then we have, one of the jobs we have to do is to designate the parliamentarian. And that has been, Nelson, are you willing to accept the job again? It's state's turn. You're not willing to take that one, huh?
No.
All right. Ms. Watson, are you going to assume the job? If someone is willing to make a motion?
I would.
Second, Mr. Pease, Mr. Rusted, or Ross seconded. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
I.
Opposed? And that's passed. Now, next item is whether to adopt Robert's Rule of Order, as we have done every year in the past. And do I have a motion on that? So, Mr. Rusted,
Second.
Mr. Ross. All in favor of the adoption of Robert's Rule of Order for our meetings, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's passed unanimously. The next item is the consent agenda. In the packet are the bills, employee status changes, overtime, designation of bank depositories, and a bond for check reissue. Normally we approve this in one motion, but with respect to the bank depositories, by having a consent agenda, would that be considered, we select the 3 banks that are in the documents?
Yes.
So we can still do this in one motion
Okay.
for the consent agenda. All right, any questions or things you'd like pulled? Motion, please.
I would.
Second. Mr. Ross, second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I.
Opposed? That's passed. The next thing on the agenda is Mr. Bartis. So I did this at home, it was 4 minutes, so I apologize for taking out 4 minutes.
I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. I wish everybody a happy new year, and I'm believing 2024 is going to be pretty awesome. Good afternoon, County Commissioners. I'm here today to ask that the Director of the County Library and Library Board appointees from the county be removed for lack of judgment and loss of confidence. We've seen over the past few months, there's a wave of insubordination in the highly charged political environment being pushed by the staff of the library and has not been corrected or even addressed by those in the library board. We've seen political flags flown and requests for other flags to be flown denied. We've had a letter for legal actions sent to the director, which stopped the flag intolerance by the director and allowed the Gadsden flag to be flown in July. We've seen the celebration of Pride Month with flags, decorations to include a pride arch that our citizens had to walk through to enter the library, and bracelets and clothing by employees being worn. For Christmas, the director and the staff refused to put up a Christmas tree. The actions of the director and the staff are not inclusive to the majority of the population of the city of Grand Forks and are instead being driven by an agenda. This is all funded by taxpayer dollars. This is being done under the approval of the appointed library board. So let me talk about the inclusivity of the library, or the lack thereof. A week before Christmas, I called the library because I was informed that they refused to put up a Christmas tree. Now, being an individual who's had the opportunity to lead many people, I thought maybe this is just a false claim. Maybe somebody didn't really do the deep dive and find out what the issue was. So I called. Want to give them the benefit of the doubt. When I called, the director could not speak. Initially, she wasn't there, but then she was there, but she couldn't speak to me. So I asked multiple questions of the staff. I found out that the director and the staff decided not to put up the Christmas tree, that they did have one, but it was something they just didn't want to do. They got away with disrespecting a holiday that most of the world celebrates in one way or another. In an act of defiance or just hypocrisy, they also took Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off. This is the same holiday they're willing not to celebrate in the library. I want you to know and I want you to see the hearts of these individuals, and I want to hold them accountable for what they're doing to our community. They're not inclusive in any way, shape, or form. They have an agenda, and the library board is allowing them to execute it without coercive action, or without corrective action, I apologize. We cannot allow this hatred and divisive attitude to prevail in a county, city, taxpayer-funded service. This library has been found to be providing obscenity, pornography to children under the age of 10 without any supervision. It took a meeting of many disgruntled parents to just have one book moved out of the children's area and placed into the adult nonfiction area. The only problem is, the book was titled, "How Do You Make a Baby?" And there are pictures in the book of two women lying on top of each other. Why that's in nonfiction, I don't really understand, but that's what the director decided that she's going to put it in. So now, two women lying on top of each other, engaging in intercourse, can now make a baby. This clearly demonstrates a willful ignorance of the leadership of the library. Now, the law is clear, and it states that it is a Class C felony for a person to disseminate obscene materials. We've had this discussion, and I went back to the city, and I believe I corrected the problem with regards to the affidavit. I haven't filed charges. I may do that because I went into the library today and I found another book right there in the same children's section. This particular book, What's Going On Down There, has about 100 pages on sex, ejaculation, masturbation, orgasms, wet dreams. Here's a little picture of a vagina. Now this is for children 12 and under. A great picture of a penis that is a little odd. This is what's being shown to our children after we've already identified, and the law came out and said, identified. These books are there. They're still there. We need to stop corrupt individuals from damaging our county services by pushing an agenda that's not in line with our community. Providing obscene materials to children is not acceptable, but is clearly desired by groomers that have given us this warning. Specifically, we are coming for your children. They've said it many times, you can shake your head, sir, but they've said it on internet and national news. So whether you believe it or not, I say believe what they say. Please do your due diligence, relieve the director and the board members that were appointed by the county. They failed at performing their duties to the high standard the citizens of Grand Forks expect and deserve. Pending your questions. Yes, sir.
I don't believe the county appoints that board.
Well, sir,
We have one representative on the board.
there's a problem with that then. Because according to North Dakota Century Code, because it's a joint funded county city taxpayer item. The county should appoint half of the board, the city should appoint the other half of the board.
And I've read that statute.
Thanks.
I don't know what the status is of the agreement that has been made between Grand Forks and the county. And the years I've been on the commission, which is over 8 now, I've not seen anything of that agreement, so it might be older than that. And I know it renews every 5 years. It's something we'll have to research and see what it says. 'Cause
So we may
I don't
have,
know what it says.
we may have a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement between the city and county for those appointments, is that what I'm understanding?
That's what the statutes allow, yes. So I don't know whether we have that or not, but we will look.
Yeah, great. So I think that would be an opportunity for us to correct some of the behaviors that are ongoing, but I appreciate your comment. Thank you very much.
As a board, I think the least,
What?
I think as a board, I think the least we can do would be to figure out exactly how our authority over that particular library board has been relinquished. And look into possibly a shake-up. I know myself personally, I wouldn't bring kids there. I know I've mentioned that to you as private, Mr. Chair, but that's just not what he's got in his hands, just one of many that are of the same ilk. And I'm in full support of a board shakeup to send a message that I don't believe that we should, as adults in the room, in theory, we're the adults in the room, right? That we should be condoning that behavior or putting our stamp of approval on it as a publicly funded entity. When you know that everyone in this room that's had kids knows that kids, if we were all at least once a kid, we know that kids like to get away with something. And for me personally, getting away with something meant storing Playboys underneath the shelter down by the river. So Mr. Ross wouldn't find me. But
So is that a confession?
it's a confession. The statute of limitations is long on, I look. And I consulted with Ms. Wamsted and I'm good to go. But the reality of it is little buggers, we felt like we were getting away with something. Right, and so that was kind of our sin, and that was our sneakiness. But as adults, if my parents had just made those magazines available to us. So then what are you gonna try to get away with, right? It gets even, you step it up, so what's the next step? I don't think that we should be sending a message to our youth that we're condoning things like depictions of young children performing analingus on each other in a public library, at the very least in the children's section. I think that's the least they could have done, and rather than that, they dug in their heels. So I believe that's why I don't want to put words in Mr. Barr's mouth, but I do believe that's why he's here today.
So there's one book I didn't bring, it was just really disgusting that, the book consists of 4 cartoon characters, 7, 9, 11, and 12. And it walked through scenarios where the children were pleasuring themselves at 9 years old and saying, this is acceptable, this feels good, you should do this. Luckily my children are growing where they're supposed to. My youngest now is 10. And I, I would be very bothered if I had trusted agents. I don't think my 10-year-old will collaborate because of this. Trusted agents in my community who are allowing this type of material to be given to my children. I would probably be seeing that young man back there. And he'd probably have me in some very shiny bracelets. There are children, and the only people who can protect them.
This issue just came up for us today, frankly. So we have to find out what agreement there is, if any, what it says. You know, we can't take any action yet. I did see in there that the board members have terms and are all alternative terms. I'm not sure you can just unappoint somebody. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, I don't know. So we'll have to research the issue and find out where to go from here.
Well, I just appreciate your time and thank you for hearing me.
Any other questions? All right. And we move on to the Grand Forks County parking rent. Mr. Phelan is here. We talked this morning a little bit, and Gracie, were you gonna talk at all about on behalf of the McKinney?
If needed, I think Mr. Phelan has it.
Mr. Phelan Lewis, and see what we can find out.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the county commission. I'd like to keep you an update on the county commission, a couple other matters that I think are partnered.
Yep.
You know, beyond the public library is part of that. So, I have been looking at, you know, we've been engaged in this county ramp and what to do, and we're trying to be helpful. And beneficial over the next 20, 30 years of that particular ramp. So, and whatever I say today, I'm talking on behalf of the administration. City council obviously has to plan forward on anything that I espouse today, but I'm planning to go to the council next week, Monday, give them an update on a few of the matters I'd like to let you guys know first, and then I can give them their feedback next week. Number one of the county parking ramp, I have reviewed the studies, and I'm not a structural engineer, but I do know how to read and look at kind of how they shape up. Right now, you guys commissioned A2S / Walker, and Walker is the specialty firm that works from Minneapolis, works on these facilities. In general, when I reviewed that report, it's very detailed report. Number one, it comes out that the ramp should have an immediate, you know, $3 million capital investment. And then another $3 million over the next 20 years, you know, about 150,000. So that's how you get that $6 million improvement. They do cite, you know, significant deferred maintenance, and that's not a surprise. So, and I would say that report probably has a more negative view on the ramp itself, okay? The city of Grand Forks then had two firms take a look at it. On our own behalf, we had a firm called, I'm just gonna say Scott Fournier. He has a firm, it's a long title of his firm. So in lieu of not mentioning this firm, we had him take a review. He did more of a qualitative review on our behalf and generally concurred that, you know, the ramp is in decline and needs some significant improvements. He did state that, you know, it's structurally sound at this point in time. And so it's not gonna fall down. However, it's in need of significant maintenance, capital maintenance in that particular firm. Then, we have a firm, Interstate Parking, that's, manages our two ramps, the central and corporate ramp. We had them take a look at it. They had their firm called Collaborative Facility Group take a look at it. And they're out of Minneapolis, and so again, that specialty firm that takes a look at, parking structures. And so they came back with an estimate of $924,000 of upfront costs to do on the ramp. They concluded that the ramp is in good shape. So if your consultant said it was probably in poor shape they said it was in good shape, okay? And then Mr. Fournier probably said, you know, just gave a qualitative assessment. So, but when I look through the collaborative design group, again, A2S and Walker did a very detailed review, probably much more detailed than Collaborative Design Group did. And so I took a look at what A2S Walker included in their cost estimate to get up to that $3 million versus what Collaborative Design Group did. And I took a look and the firm of A2S and Walker, they also took a deeper dive into the drainage system, into the plumbing, into the electrical, other aspects where Collaborative Design Group just look at the structure itself, the concrete, the load bearing things that are going on there, some of the deterioration of the joints and the seal and all those sorts of things. So I think my conclusion is, I think it can be rehabbed upfront for less than $3 million. And it's probably gonna cost more than the $924,000. So if I were to take the best of what I see in the A2S Walker review, and then take and add some additional costs to the Collaborative Design Group, where I don't think they took a look at all those things. I think the upfront cost to do some capital rehab, and that is probably between $1.5 and $2 million. And I know, last time I was here, county, you still have $3 million in ARPA funds, and that's where you're going to dedicate it. Certainly, you don't, if you didn't have to invest the $3 million, that means you can invest some of that money in alternatives. So what I'm going to tell, so what I'm saying here is, I think the upfront cost that if the city included and agreed to take it over, and the council agreed, I think the request would be between $1.5 and $2 million of upfront costs to get that facility up and going. And that would be all the concrete, the seals and seams and all the things that are struggling in that facility. Drainage, all those sorts of things. I think it would get it back up to par. Okay. The other thing we looked at is, what it's going to cost to, maintain it over time. I mean, obviously, we don't want to let it get deteriorated after, almost 20, 25 years and then do all one fell swoop. So what we looked at is, we think it's gonna cost about $325,000 annually to maintain that facility. And $225,000 would be set aside for the operation and maintenance of that facility. And then $100,000 we would set aside in capital maintenance fund. So, the assumption is that we invest $1.5 million to $2 million, we should be good, but we need to set aside a sinking fund. So as things transpire over the years, we can draw on that fund to maintain that facility with more major capital replacement things. Mr. Ford sent an email to us about how many stalls would the county need. I say the county and your partners, and he estimated about 200 stalls. That ramp has 330 stalls contained within that. And so you would have a little more than half. Certainly our goal, when we look at cost estimates, so at our current ramps with reserve spots are generally $120 a month. Something that there's also opportunities for a lesser, just kind of a scramble, go find a spot, is more in the range of probably $55. So when we look at it and estimate stall rate, we estimate as part of our revenue forecasting at $90 per stall for the 200. And certainly the other part of the city we want to do is to try to rent out other stalls up to that additional 100 to get to 300 stalls, and so that we could have some cash flow on that particular ramp. The other parking structure that we have is that we have a surface parking lot that is just to the just off of where the Northlands Mission is. And that's another parking structure that we're contemplating. Now, we're not charging anything for that, but we'll likely have to charge that in the future, because we intend to start developing the water treatment plant site. And all the things that we've done north of Demers, we're going to start try to develop south of Demers. And I think all the great things we've been able to do north of Demers, and it's quite booming. Now we're going to shift our focus to the south of Demers, and then between Demers and Minnesota Avenue. And I think that's going to make this parking much more valuable than it is today, especially when we redevelop that two block area. That's our initial thought as moving forward. And I'm going to update the city council on the parking ramp, kind of where we're at, and and get their buy-in, and I haven't briefed them at all on this, but it's been, the administration, the mayor's asked us to take a look at this, so we're taking a look at it, and ultimately the city council makes a decision. But before I went there, I just want to get your feedback about what I've come up with here, or my initial thoughts, and get your feedback, so that I don't go to the city council and you guys have no interest in us further examining this opportunity that we have. The other thing I know that you're looking at is, as part of this, could there be a swap that the city does own? That history lot across from the police department, and we acquired that when we worked with the, Franklin on Fourth property, where they took the Herald lot, and in return of taking that Herald lot, they swapped us a lot that they had up that street. So I know that's been a part of the discussion. If we do take over the ramp, could that be part of this transaction? We put a value on it a couple of years ago on that land about at 180,000. And so could that be part of this whole, we'll say a partnership between the city and the, so with that's my first update. That I have, and then I have two others, and so just maybe I'll just hit you with a couple more things, because maybe they're tiny about it. Again, that
We probably all got questions on the rent, so
Yeah.
what else would you like to talk
I'll do
about?
a couple other things, that just so you're aware, and I see Tess Muller is on here too. Is that we're contemplating right now, and again, this would go to the city council next week, of proposing to move the public health department from here in this building to Franklin on Fourth. And right now, public health has about 10,000 square feet in this building. And there's a commercial space on the first and second floor, Franklin on Fourth, that has about 2,000 square feet too. And so our proposal in that area would be to rent a first floor space off of University. That would be more the customer access point for clients and customers that want to use public health. And then there's a second floor that would be more of a private administrative office space. So we're working on a proposed lease with the developer, Northbridge, and I proposed have them move into that commercial space as we move forward. So I want to give you a heads up on that. And I'll get more feedback from the city council, but I wanted to let you know, because I know you're working on a lot of space utilization stuff. I have to brief this to Mr. Ford that we are examining this, and hopefully, some of the challenges you have with space help us to help relieve it. And then the final piece, we talked a lot about the police department building over the years, about how can we transition so that the police department and PSAP could add some additional space in that building. And we made a really good move first off to get have emergency management come over to the county building, and that's allowed the police department to expand their evidence on the basement floor. And so that's been very much appreciated in the midst of rehabbing that area or additional space in that area. So that's worked quite well. The other thing we're gonna do with PSAP, if you've been over there, they're doing training in their break room, and it's not the best space over there. And so what we're planning in the interim is to have them move over to, there's a space in City Hall, we call, I think it's A101. Either A101 or A102, one of these basement rooms that we're not using, they're gonna use that as their interim training space, so that they can get their break from that in the meantime. They also have staff in their area that are formerly in closets that are now offices. And so really what our goal in over, my tenure as city administrator, over 10 years, we've added, I think 16 police officers. And so we have some space issues just over the last, 10 years, and obviously prior to that. So we're looking at if we can work with you, and obviously we know that the sheriff's office is very valuable, and we want to get them in the right place. So if we were able to move public health in 24, I would like to authorize the police department and police have to come up with their own master plan with that building in 24, with possible action in 25 and 26, where they could transition to additional space, and that would give Tommy some time to take a look at alternative opportunities. But they're eager to move in there, and we aren't going to kick anyone out, but I just want to set some time horizons. And if it doesn't happen in 25, if it's 26, but just so that we can start moving, and we'll do some space utilization and master planning, just like you are doing. And we're trying to maximize our existing footprints, as much as we can, similar to what we've done in City Hall. Where we've renovated and tried to optimize as much of the space as possible, better use it, for humans. And without having to expand, because building new buildings is awfully expensive. And would be hard for us to do to move forward. So with that, you know, the public health and the police department arrangement occurred in 2000. It was a post-flood move. Obviously, this building was built, post-flood with the help of the state of North Dakota. And then that allowed public health to come over here, urban development. Prior to that, moved over to a separate building, and now urban development, now known as community development, now is in City Hall. So lots of things have changed over there. But it was seen as a swap. And right now, the second floor is about 8,800 square feet. I think the health has about 10,000 square feet, but it was kind of seen as even trade in 2000. And here we are 24 years later, probably looking at what does the next 20 to 30 years look like. So those are all the things that we're working that are really in partnership with you folks. And I'm gonna update the city council on these things, but really trying to look out for the next 20, 30 years. And we've been served well by what our predecessors did. After the flood, and now I think we need to look out for the next 30 years. So with that, that's a period on all those things. If you have any questions or feedback on all three of those things, you can that we're currently working on it, and I'll share these comments with city council.
First, Mr. Members, go ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner Ross.
I think the original discussion on the sheriff movie was, that you kind of wanted the police department building by 2026. But now you say 25 or 26. So I don't think 25 was in that discussion. I think it was 26. I mean, we're all for moving along as fast as we can. But it seemed like it got cut a year. The other thing, that swap on that lot, I heard discussion that if the city gives us that lot, we could not use it for a parking lot. It would have to be utilized for something else. I don't know if that was part of the discussion. I was not present, but this is what I heard. And I think that's all I've got, so.
I think as part of that original discussion, you know, we wanted the lot to have some sort of development. So we know if we don't develop on the lot, that it turns out to be something, and certainly if the county wanted to turn that into parking as part of a broader development in the area, that makes sense in the area too. And we probably want to protect ourselves to some degree about taking over a ramp, and then if you shifted a bunch of folks over there too. But I think we're gonna need parking on this side, and we're gonna need parking on that side, and we're gonna need parking down there with all the development that's going to come over the next 10 years.
I mean, when we look at jury trials and everything that come up, you know, normally the jurors all park in the top floor of the parking ramp. And if we can utilize that as a parking lot, it's much closer to the courthouse and would facilitate not packing that ramp. So,
And I think we're amenable to 26, but if I don't say, it's like one of these things that if you say 25, if you say something may happen in 25, 26, it usually happens in 26. If I say something happens and it's gonna happen in 26, it's likely to happen in 27. So I think we want to create some urgency with an action plan.
Right.
Because when we start looking at our 25 budget, you know, we're gonna start working on that in the next few months. And I know that's gonna be one of our discussions about, you know, and we need to set aside funds in 25 and in 26 and how much. So this, to try and speed up the planning process.
and we're kind of waiting for the space study to get done in this building, so we know what kind of space that we have and who we can put in there, so.
Mr. Ross, do you have a question?
Yeah, that's for Mr. Gillen. I was curious, I'm asking for conjecture here, not for bona fide facts, so read between the lines. Do you think there's any flexibility on that lot use? Like, let's say if we limited it to squads and jurors only, right? So we weren't taking up all your clients for the parking around. I mean, would something like that be possibly be amenable, or do you think that's off the table, or where do you think things are at?
Sure, I think we're amenable to that. Again, the city council would have to approve it, but you know, I think they're wanting to compromise and come up with a reasonable solution, and we should be able to partner, because even the surface lot, I wasn't here, but I think the surface lot by the mission what the county gave it to the city. But I think one of the requirements is that we couldn't develop on the lot, so, back in the day, so. I think our point on that one is that we're gonna need that for parking on the surface lot, but if we ever needed to come back to the county, hey, we had great development, we'd like to develop, we presume that the county would work with us.
Oh, no, off the table.
I think the answer is yes, we can work something.
Mr. Peach, any questions?
No, no.
What about all of the people that we have coming into the county office building who need to come in just for short times? Would you be, if you were running a ramp, would you close it off and have someone charging for short time parking? Or would all three entrances still be open?
I think we have them all open, you know, for example, at the corporate ramp. We'll say, Laris, you know, they have customer parking, areas to come and go, but obviously they pay for them, so I think it would be part of. You know, what kind of reservations you want, we certainly want customer service spots, in key locations. I would say just so that you can get them access in and out of the building, sooner rather than later.
We kind of have a pretty vulnerable population of people who have to come in here for social services. Taxes, all the kinds of things that come in for a short period of time. And is there also some talk about putting meters along the streets?
We can, North Dakota State, a lot of them require meters. I mean, we certainly could put signs up eliminating time, few things part.
Yeah,
But like, for instance, along Third, I don't even think we have any limitations for parking, and so like you do on the north side of Demers, but number one, you can put signs, and then number two, you gotta enforce them. But those are, I think, are really future conversations, but right now, we're allowing a lot of free parking that's really quite valuable, and we're seeing that right now with all the development, north side development, that parking is valuable.
I think one of the things that we really do need here is a fair amount of free parking. Because of a lot of the people who are, they're not gonna be able to afford to have monthly passes, where they just don't need it. But we have a lot of people coming in all day long, so. The free spots are really quite important, and whether it's jurors, and when the jury trial, they fill up pretty fast. But most of the time, I think. It's been working so far, but if we really have to be. Careful about how we handle spots for people who need to come in. This is a service building. That's really mostly what it is. And you know, we can't try to make a whole lot of money on a parking lot because the people who come here don't need it for that purpose. So, well, those are the things we have to talk about going forward. And we haven't studied it as a board very much at this point. It'll be interesting to hear what you guys talk about on Monday. And then we can have a committee meeting or do something else at a regular meeting over these things too. So I think we're all willing to discuss it, but there are some important facts that have to be figured out.
Sounds right. Again, on the parking ramp, I think it's an opportunity. There's no flooring in running parking ramps, parking in general, so. But I think the important thing is, as I read those reports, we gotta get, whoever owns it has to get that ramp up to shape before further deterioration occurs with the concrete and the steel that's in there. So I think that's probably, if I had to point to an immediate thing when we runs it, is that it's in good to okay structural shape, but it needs to be rehabbed so that it stays that way.
So when you mentioned that figure of $1.5 million, are you talking about the county contributing and the city contributing? How much, we'd like to know, I'm sure, before we even address it. What we would have to contribute before we let you have the ramp. I mean, it's still money that's gone.
Yeah, I think we'd ask for upfront, if we were gonna take it over, we'd ask for upfront capital contribution, and that when I mentioned that $1.5 million to $2 million, so that we could get it back to a reasonable condition. As part of us taking forward. Otherwise, I don't think the city of Grand Forks would agree to invest $1.5 million to $2 million of our own funds into the ramp to get it going.
So what you're saying is the you think it can be done for $1.5 to 2 million, and you want the county to pay that whole amount.
Yes, that's part of it.
If I understood what you were talking about.
I think regardless. It needs that upfront investment, and then over time it needs to be better maintained. I think all the studies say that, so that.
I think the figure that one of our company, or expert companies said was about 170,000 a year, wasn't it? Anyone recall the number? After the. So, I don't think I made it up, but it's
No.
something like that.
Yeah.
And you weren't too far off on that in what you were talking about, but, all right, we'll wait to hear. Can't, really tell you where we're leaning one way or the other because we don't know, or at least I don't.
So I will plan to brief the city council, get their feedback. And we'll continue to engage and from what I hear, you want to continue to find a way forward. But you're neutral on what that way.
Mr. Chair, one other thing, I think we as a commission should have an administrative services meeting. And that meeting, we could have department heads, employees come in and talk about their feeling on the ramp. And get some feedback that way. And I think the sooner the better. But they all have opinions, I've heard them all, and I think we should hear them, so.
Yeah, if you can give us some feedback after Monday night that we can then chew on in a meeting in the near future, that'd be helpful.
And if I were Ms. Nelson, I think our timeline is, I think the ARPA funds have to be committed to something in 24.
Yes.
And so I think that's, I think the timeline, other than, let's not let the ramp deteriorate for one more winter, is, I don't think it's advisable.
We agree with that.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Roger. Ms. Leon, are you taking the administrators
I am.
lot today?
Chair Engen and members of the commission, so there are 2 items, but I think that if it's all right, we need to wait on the JLG office space assessment contract that the contract had a few changes that we requested, and they just haven't had a chance to get those to us yet, and to Swampstead for review before we bring them to the commission, so we'll just have to hold up on that. We're talking about how that might change timelines, but in current communication on that space utilization study with JLG. But the other item is the SRF River Crossing Study Contract Amendment. And so, and I know Nick has been following along, and so if I missed anything, please jump in. But the community has been given an opportunity to apply for a RAISE grant, a RAISE planning grant, which stands for Building American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, through SRF Consulting. This would be the opportunity to have a lot of the dollars that are going to need to be put into the planning part of this bridge project to have those federally funded without any requirement for a community match. So that would, that includes costs related to environmental analysis, equity analysis, community engagement, feasibility studies, benefit cost analysis. I believe that in fiscal year 2023, the awards ranged from $175,000 to $16.45 million in communities. So it's a great opportunity for the county to, or the communities to offset some of those costs. But the writing of this grant was not included in the original scope of work for SRF. And so what is before you today is an amendment to the professional services agreement that would include funding the additional cost of writing this grant and submitting it on behalf of the 4 communities, so Polk, Grand Forks County, East Grand Forks, and the city of Grand Forks. And so that total is $28,404, but split between 4 entities would come to the county at a cost of $7,101 for the amended grant. And so it's, yeah.
Leon, He mentioned equity in regards to a river crossing. I must be missing something. I'm not sure how those two things are said in the same sentence.
The federal requirements, some of those do follow along with equity in communities. That's just a small piece of it. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's what this is about. It's just a piece of what raised plan grants can be used for.
Oh, all right, thank you.
So Ms. Lean, the dollar amount you're talking about with this particular amendment would be $7,000 from Bradford County.
Correct.
That's the 101.
Yes, correct.
Any other discussion about that, or do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
To approve the, our share of that with the amendment for at 7,101?
Yep.
Second,
I'll second that.
Mr. Peach, any further discussion? Questions? Hearing none, and assuming a roll call vote, all in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It passed. I'm an aye.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. It's attorney, you have an item, I think.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I have a mental health defense services contract, as part of the packet that I request the board's approval and the chair's signature. This is for the same dollar amount, each compensation, the same firm that we've used for the last few years. It hasn't changed in any regard. The only thing I would mention is, if the commission wishes to approve this contract for the chair's signature. I did visit with, the firm earlier today. They had just some terminology changes for the contract, really no change in substance. And so I would just ask for, a motion for the chair's signature on the final draft. Same compensation as previously, or that would be adjusted at all.
Any questions? Everybody understand what this contract is? Yeah. Okay.
I'll put approval of the chair's signature.
Mr. Rusted, second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Peach. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's committee reports. Mr. Peach,
I have nothing to report at this time.
Mr. Rusted.
Oh, we have an MPO meeting. What was it? I had to zoom in. I was sick. I didn't want to get everybody else sick at that time, but the long range plan for the bridge crossings, I did not vote in favor of because Grand Forks voted to remove the intercity bridge from the 5-year plan. And I stated it then, and I'll say it again today, that to me seems like planning a wedding for a woman that's not interested in you. And so it made no sense. And so I, Al Grasser was the other no on that vote. Yeah, but the two city council representatives did decide to not have it go to a tie, and so they both flipped over to yes, the intercity bridge. We need to hear about that for another 5 years. It's never gonna happen. And so I feel that we should put the focus, in my opinion, one person on the Merrifield Bridge, because there's a dance partner. Whereas with something on 32nd Avenue, as of right now, East Grand Forks has no dance partner, so they're just breakdancing by themselves. And so it me makes it absolutely 0 sense to leave it in there, but it's in there. So we can look forward to 5 more years of bridge discussions.
For the intercity on 30.
Yeah, intercity on 32nd or wherever else, 17th, it doesn't much matter. I mean, the 24th, yeah, wherever, wherever. Fairfield's the only one that's getting built by the time it goes out, the intercity bridge, so This- Other than that, I got nothing to report.
Mr. Ross.
Just, we have our meetings every Tuesday out at the construction site for the jail. And things are moving along, they're a little ahead of schedule. And, it looks really good. So, other than that, that's about it.
I have nothing, it was pretty quiet a couple of weeks. So. What do we got next then, unfinished new business?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, you will have your commission portfolio and board assignments that you considered at the last meeting, but did not make a motion.
We have a motion to approve the portfolio and board assignments.
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion, questions? All in favor of the portfolio and board assignments? Signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Yeah,
So that means they're the same as they are current,
yes.
no changes, all right, very good. The next item is the Niagara City Joint Powers Agreement.
Yes.
At the last meeting, I wasn't here and I had all of the agreements, but Niagara's in there. So you approved the other 8 small cities, we just needed a,
Yes, I didn't see them in this list in the documents.
Niagara should be in there, page 52.
Also.
Well,
13B,
On 13B, it's on the screen there. And that is the same agreement that we approved, or you approved for all the other 8 small cities other than Niagara, so I just need a motion to
Niagara's in
approve
this one, okay, that's why,
Niagara's agreement.
all the rest of.
They're the same and you already approved them.
So we have a motion to approve the joint powers agreement,
So moved.
Commissioner Peace.
Second.
Commissioner Russell, are you seconding?
Either way,
I think. her hand
we can
was-
split the glory.
Sure. All right, we have a motion and a second.
It's the Christmas season.
Any other questions about what these agreements are? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Passed.
And this came up, I was given this at 3 o'clock today, and there was a taxpayer that was very happy with 2 of my staff members, and he's nailed it $20. And so, I know we don't accept money, maybe we could just have in the minutes that, name the 2 of my staff that he mentioned in the numbers here. And then put the $20 in the county general fund. That all right?
The state's attorney, is it permissible to put in the general fund, or should we return to the Senate?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I think either option would be.
Okay. And who were the staff members they mentioned?
It was Amy Wyrick that received the letter, but in the letter it also mentioned Ursula Nelson. So, thanks.
Kudos to them.
Yeah.
And
Well,
service we like to see, but we have a motion as to where this money should go.
To Amy and Ursula.
What?
We can't.
I would move, obviously, since the individual shared that money, and we can't give it to the employees, I would move that it goes into the gym.
second,
Mr. Ross? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Yes. Good to hear those things once in a while.
It is very
Our
nice.
staff works hard, they're good at what they do.
And I'm gonna talk about this
Oh, yeah.
every meeting from now until March 31st, the primary residence credit. You all received, if you're a property owner in Grand Forks County, this notice. And you need to apply, if you own a property and live in that property in North Dakota, apply for this credit. You can only do it online and you can only do it from January 1st to March 31st. If you wait till April 1st, it's too late. So you have to apply for this. It applies to your 2024 taxes and it's up to $500 in credit. So you gotta go to the website that's listed there. If you don't remember what it is, you can give me a call and you know.
and there is no maximum income.
There is no maximum income or age.
Yeah.
So It applies to every,
Minimum age rent income.
no, not just,
Just a gift from
yes,
the legislature.
yes.
Hey, good work.
So we just want to make sure that people are aware of this and pay upon it.
Right.
And the next item under unfinished new business is the 2024 NERDR Board of Directors election, so you could apply if you are interested.
All right. So is that all we have
That's it.
in the correspondence area? I guess we have Mr. Bells is here. Would you like to say anything? You sent a nice email to the county.
Oh, just came to listen, thank you for your service and, greetings from Senator Lim and Representative Hager as well.
Okay. Nothing further?
Paper respond, so.
Can someone step into
I'll
it?
take it.
I'll step in for, I'll move adjournment.
Okay, all in favor?
I.
Very good.
I wish her luck to us for, do the same, so.
Yeah.